United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Fort Lee Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on April 15, 2024, and posted on the district website at www.flboe.com, published in the board's designated online media outlet newspapers, the Record and the Star Ledger, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Fort Lee, and mailed to all persons, if any, who have requested said notice. Please be advised this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast on local TV and online at a future date. The Open Public Meeting Act allows for remote participation at board meetings and defines meeting as any gathering, whether corporeal or by means of communication equipment, which is attended by or open to all of the members of a public body, held with the intent on the part of the members of the body present to discuss or act as a unit upon specific public business of that body. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Byers-Kay?
Here.
Ms. Colbath?
Here.
Ms. Curry?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Mrs. Cote?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Here.
Ms. Morel?
Here.
Mr. Rubino?
Here.
Mrs. Richter?
Here. The board will be convening to executive session to discuss legal, personnel, and other confidential matters. The board will reconvene into public session at approximately 7:30 p.m. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Motion, Curry, second, Morel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Fort Lee Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on April 15, 2024, and posted on the district website at www.flboe.com, published in the board's designated online media outlet newspaper, the Record and the Star Ledger, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Fort Lee, and mailed to all persons, if any, who have requested said notice. Please be advised this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast on local TV and online at a future date. The Open Public Meeting Act allows for remote participation at board meetings and defines meeting as any gathering, whether corporeal or by means of communication equipment, which is attended by or open to all members of the public body, held with the intent on the part of the members of the body present to discuss or act as a unit on the specific public business of that body. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Byers-Kay?
Here.
Ms. Colbath?
Here.
Ms. Curry?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Mrs. Cote?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Here.
Ms. Morel?
Here.
Mr. Rubino?
Here.
Mrs. Richter?
Here. The board convened executive session at 6:30 p.m. to discuss legal, personnel, and other confidential matters. Dr. Kravitz, will you begin by sharing the superintendent's report?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Thursday is our big day as we reopen the schools. Today was the first day back for the teachers and staff, and we held a productive meeting to prepare everyone for the year. A big thank you for the custodians, secretaries, the administrators, the central office staff, and everyone else who worked in security, who worked this summer to prepare the buildings. We had a wonderful meeting with CPAC, the Special Education Parents Advisory Group this week, and we're proud that we're moving forward. We have about 35 people attending. Administrators work hard year round, as everyone else in schools do, and this summer gives us the most amount of time to prepare for that year. We're opening our school with the vocational trades building under construction at the high school. 31 replacement staff members new to our district, and they spent the last 3 days of last week getting a tour of Fort Lee and learning a lot about our district, and a renewed energy to begin another year of learning with enthusiasm. As we start the year, the most important thing for parents is to support your children and encourage your children. Learning is the key, whether it's learning from a mistake on a test or learning a life lesson, like to be on time for school, still learning. I encourage all our students to be on time, be prepared to learn, and never give up. Together, we will create opportunities for all of the children in Fort Lee, and always remember that Fort Lee is the place to be. Let's make this year the best for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there board members with committee reports?
I have a committee report. Hi, good evening.
My name is Tanya Byers King, and I have a board committee report on the BNG. So the Building and Grounds Committee met on August 26th at 3 p.m. The board members that were in attendance were President Kristen Richter, Michael Rubino, Tanya Byers King, which is myself. The administrators in attendance were Dr. Kravitz, Diane Calaco Baker, and Adina Messeri. We talked about the high school shop, which Dr. Kravitz has just spoken about. He showed pictures. The pictures were very beautiful. If you haven't been on the high school track, you can see it's in the back of the track. I had a couple questions about what happens in inclement weather, tell the students to bring umbrellas. The next thing that we talked about was a long-range facilities plan, and that's something that our district needs to put together. It's approximately 80-something thousand dollars, 83, 89 something thousand dollars that we actually don't have at the moment. So we will be doing that next year for our next year, the long range facility plan. And then the third thing that we talked about were steps for the property that was spoken about at the last meeting, and the demographics, the potential use, and the appraisal. And the recommendations were the members present agreed to move forward with an appraisal, and Dr. Kravitz will follow up with legal to get potential appraisers. And we briefly spoke about CELO agreements that we have for Class 3 officers, and one for salt and gas for our BOE vehicles and for the snow. And then we spoke about pilot money that we have, $383,000 that is received each year for the use of the BOE property for the rec program. And that about sums it up for the the BNG committee report. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other committee?
Sure. Can we ask any questions on the committee reports or, so the long-range facilities plan, I thought historically we sometimes make changes to it, or is this something bigger that the committee talked about?
So the long-range facility plan the district has been operating from is a modified one that just had the list of projects. Traditionally, in order like long-range facilities plan that used to be required by law every 5 or 10 years, used to 10, would include a demographic study, would include square footage, would actually include every school with a breakdown of what needs to get done, what the life of whatever project that is. Meaning if you have new windows, it would tell you you're in year 2, you will need windows in year 10, and it has pictures of every item that prioritizes. That, from my understanding, there has not been one in about 10 years. And that's what we're looking to do. And somehow, based on, just starting the year, we have to get through our first set of payroll and make sure that where we are with the budget. But before we can do anything, we have to determine how much, so we have a quote, an estimate of $83,000 for that, and what that includes, and we'd like to move forward eventually with the long-range facilities plan, the same way with the strategic plan, to know how many students we're gonna get, where they're gonna be, how the town is changing, and identify what is crucial at the moment and moving forward, 1, 3, and 5 years out.
And then I think she mentioned that the pilot monies.
It's the pilot money, so
So that was something that was established, like whenever the municipality approved that payment in lieu of taxes, when they granted the developer like a waiver on taxes. So the school board in a pilot, we don't get our fair share of the school taxes from the modern or, that the property that was issued the pilot. So we were always told and under the impression that those monies were to cover the students that we were getting from the modern and those buildings. And then also some was allocated to be used for our Class 3 officers. So did that change? I mean, I think I just heard that it's now like, how did we calculate that the rec owed us 300? Because that 383, it used to be like, I think 500 and then maybe went to 400. And then I think it's been stable at the 383.
So the question at the time when we met, there are current 3 interlocals that we have with the borough of Fort Lee. One interlocal is for gas and
Right,
also
understood.
our vehicles. Another one is a class 3 school security shared services agreement where we are responsible, so they hire and train class 3 officers. If you're not familiar with class 3 officers, these are individuals who have recently retired from police departments that are licensed to carry firearms, and they wear uniforms. They are part of the Fort Lee Police Department. We are responsible for them. As far as paying. We pay. And the third one, that since I arrived here, was a interlocal agreement with the town that denoted a specific dollar amount, and that was the dollar amount that they used to as a calculation. It's my understanding, again, prior to my arrival, that it was somewhere in the $500,000 range. However, it has remained stable at $383. That, because it cannot identify for students, it was identified specifically for the use of the facilities with recreation department. So
The
that,
contract says that because
Yeah.
I was at the meeting where it was approved.
so,
And the public was very, very advocating that these large construction projects were going to generate a lot of students, but we weren't going to get any of the tax money. And again, it also was to fund, this is the first I've ever heard that it's to pay for rec
so
programs.
there has never been a contract that references a specific shared services agreement that I'm aware of that references pilot money. It just mentions the only one that we have that actually states a dollar figure is the one for use of facilities by the recreation department. Ms. Misery and I met with the borough administrator as well as the chief financial officer, and it was explained to us that that is the money. That's how it's denoted in their budget. The pilot money is addressed to the use of facilities for the recreation department. So those are the 3 shared services agreements that we have, and the one for the recreation is, doesn't say on it, but that's what we were told from them, that that is the money of the pilot money.
Okay, I mean, that's, again, the first I've heard that it's, how did we calculate that the rec department's use of our facilities is something in the range of $383,000?
So we didn't calculate, that's the fund, that was the money, so they're using the pilot money to, and saying this is for use of, so they're telling us what the amount is for use of the facilities, of that $383,000 pilot money. So I don't know how they calculated that, I don't think anyone was calculating, but that's the same number, and we specifically asked them because we wanted clarity on what exactly are we getting from pilot money as well as what it's used for, and they said the only way they would be able to do is through that particular verbiage in the contract.
So has the rec department's use of our facilities declined over the last 5 years since we started at 500? My understanding is that their use of our facilities has actually increased.
That I could not answer without looking at what their usage is, I don't look at their
Okay.
usage, but we can definitely
So-
look at it.
So, but we're not receiving anything to cover the students that come out of the model. And the other, I forget what it's called, the other property up by the B Fort Lee. So there's nothing where we're still not getting any school taxes for whatever the students are.
Correct.
And
We get
do you
pilot.
have, can you recall, because I know we've looked at this a number of times, approximately how many students we have from the modern?
There are about 75 students who live in the modern, of course.
This is the,
Oh, I had a report after. but-
is it a term to this payment agreement? Does it expire?
So payment in lieu of taxes is not a requirement for a town to give. They do not have to give pilot money. It is the choice of the borough. So in essence, if a contractor or a developer chooses to build property, they have the option of not giving their, if it understanding of the law, that's just, a bit more. They are not required to give any money towards if they receive an abatement.
But again, that's negotiated by the municipality and the developer, and they usually do have terms, 15, 20, 30 years so that on that term. When it expires, then they would revert to paying their ordinary taxes.
Right, but there's no requirement of the developer or the town to give any pilot.
Correct.
So that's my question, how long is that?
There's no,
Okay, I don't know how long this instance, I mean, it could be 15 years, 20 years, those are standard terms for pilots.
I think this might have been.
Are you asking when it expires for them to
So-
start giving us the money, or when?
Yeah, when the agreement to give us that money instead of tax money, when that is.
It's year to year, from my understanding.
So,
fluctuate.
It has fluctuated, there was a calculation that they didn't present us, but I had seen it when I first got here. And I know the former BA was trying to figure it out as well.
But to Paul's point, it's maintained steady. for the past
Correct.
few years. Okay.
I mean, if we have 75 students coming from there at our kind of standard, 18,000 per student is what we calculate is what it costs this district to educate a student. That's $1,350,000 that we're finding somewhere because we're not getting any taxes from that property. That's a big nut.
And they're not struggling, from what I understand.
Modern.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that the town and the Board of Education usually negotiate. And again, they are not required for pilot money. I've worked in other districts and other towns that pilot money was not given for development. So it's really the discretion of the board how you wanna, move forward with that. But as far as information, that's the way the pilot money is structured here. The action the board wants to take, that's theirs.
So just for clarification, you're saying that, like, now, it could be zero, they could be giving us zero.
From my understanding, yes, and I, as I said, there are other towns I have worked in where a lot of development went on, there was no pilot money at all.
So whatever they give us, it's like I said, a gift right now.
It's a gift, but to Paul's point, understanding that when you have students who are coming,
I-
right, there's a usage fee, if you will, for every student that comes.
It's a gift that's costing us about $1 million.
$1,350,000.
So we received $385,000 as a choice. And that's what they give us.
Yeah.
So how do we address
You'd have to have your mayor and liaison council, or your committee in this team, discuss it with the governing body and discuss what your present your concerns and see what they say. Again, I remind everybody that pilot money is not a guarantee.
Yeah, they don't have to give it.
There's nothing in the statute that requires a municipality to give pilot money.
August 21st, the policy committee met. All the policies that were discussed are on tonight's agenda. Most of the changes were not discretionary changes where the committee made any decisions. There was one that we spent some time discussing, and that's guidance counseling, 2411. It allowed us to select from 4 different models, and we thought that the best model for our district would be that a program of guidance and counseling, including developmental career guidance and exploration, shall be offered to all students in the school district and shall include the services of teaching staff members certified as guidance personnel and other designated teaching staff members. There was a policy that is not on tonight's agenda that received a fair amount of discussion, and that is the district's busing policy. And I'm not sure if any additional information. The committee hasn't met since August 21, but we have been providing busing services largely in instances where we're not required. We actually only have 1 student in the district who's statutorily entitled to busing, but the committee, especially since it's so late in the year, wanted to continue to provide the busing along the lines of what we have in the past, which will require some type of stipend, a payment is required. And I think ultimately the committee agreed on something like $100 or $200 for the year. But we may need to revisit this next year. The decision was made because we're so close and no one wanted to go to parents and say busing was not going to be offered at all this year. So stay tuned for more on busing. That's it.
Are there any other committee reports?
Yeah, just to add on to what Paula, you just mentioned about busing, we actually, I know that email was sent out to students and to parents to notify them that if they would like busing and they live within 1.7 miles, I believe.
We did the 1.7 first, and then the next morning we sent it to everyone else in the IS and the middle school, because it was for the IS and middle school only.
Got it. So there is more updated correspondence, and I believe parents are eligible. Parents can sign up and will receive an email confirmation from transportation by now. If their kids, if their children is, or their child is on the bus.
Thanks.
Any other committee reports? I know we had a lot of comments and questions on the committee reports, but are there other comments and questions on the agenda or any other items?
I just want to wish all the returning students much success this coming school year, and also hope every Fort Lee family had a wonderful summer. Also would like to wish all the sports programs best of luck. Congrats to the varsity football team on getting their first win of the season under Coach Gerst. And Fort Lee, if you haven't heard yet, please go to northjersey.com and vote for Luke Senator for Athlete of the Week after going 11 and 13 in passes and a whopping 227 yards. Their first home game will be this Friday evening, so let's go out there and show support. I know it's also Fort Lee Night Out, but let's go out there and show support for the football team. And also, girls soccer will get underway on Monday versus Paramus Catholic, and their first home game is next Thursday versus Riverdale. So good luck and go get it. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on questions, but the first one I have is on one B and G. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment on the one B and G, how we're using space in school 1 and school 4. The library is going to be used for classroom as well. So that's just kind of showing that we're in need of space around here. There's photos attached. If you open up the attachment there, you'll see how it's drawn out, how the petition will be there. And so we're inching into our library space, and we were that way before, a couple years back, before we built this beautiful facility, and we're getting in that way again. So I wanted to bring that comment up in case no one saw that. Also, the number 2 on the B and G, it says the necessary, and I was wondering, what is necessary for the toilet room facilities to be in compliance? So it's like to be in toilet room compliance, what do we need to have? We need to have a toilet for a certain number of students, or certain, like, what does it mean?
So if there are not toilets in the classroom for the younger grades, specifically kindergarten,
It's kindergarten.
then you have to have within sight distance. So for example, in school number 3, school room across the hall, as long as you're in sight distance, you can, but you have to get special permission for that.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering, that was a little funny. And then the last thing I was wondering is, could you tell me a little bit about the impact tracker of 4F? I'm sure it's something that's wonderful. I just, for myself and other people may want to know exactly how it works. Maybe something that we could be using that we're not using, or our students could be using that they're not using. It's the impact tracker product for the mobile serve renewal contract.
So those are the students who are doing community service, they're the ones who track the hours. So that program, so when kids sign up, there's an approval process of who signs off on everybody's community service hours, and that's what that mobile tracker is.
Perfect. Okay. I think that those are all the questions. Thank you.
I have a question regarding 3B. The year-to-date number doesn't seem to reflect year-to-date. Can you talk about what that data is?
So it's once per month, so we kept the chart on, but it's actually every month it's changed in the numbers.
So it's not year to date, you mean month to date?
Correct. Well, it will be adjusted once we start, so the numbers cannot be twice a month, so it will be once a month, so we just had it will be the middle of the second meeting of every month, will be the accurate numbers on this chart. And it will be year to date.
Can I ask a quick question on, the follow-up on Tanya's on 2B and G? I was just confused. I understand why we're doing it. But you list school number 2, 3, and 4 with various rooms. But then in the resolved paragraph, we're only doing something tonight in connection with school 3. So why are school 2 and 4 listed?
You're talking about.
2B and G.
It's a couple that, well, the two. Right, that's additional dual use because that's a renewal for the dual use, I believe, of educational space at school 3. School 1 and school 4, their dual use, that's a first time application. And so on the bottom of 2B and G, that's a renewal for the dual use of space at school 3. And then the number 2, 3, and 4, those are the alternate toilet facilities for those kindergarten and bathrooms. And those are renewals. Separated the first time ones from the renewals.
So this is a new rule?
No, every year you're supposed to renew
You
it.
have to renew every year.
So why isn't it all a renewal?
So this first time, 1B and G is
No.
new, and then the
2B and
second,
G.
2B and G is.
We have to renew those every year, the toilet facilities and then the dual use. 1B and G.
No, 1B and G is use of the libraries.
Right, which was never, they never put in for it before. This is the first time that they're asking.
So 1B and G has to do with the fact we don't have enough classroom space, so we are now gonna have classrooms in our library. That's one
In
issue.
school 1 and school 4 for the first time ever, yes.
Correct. I'm not asking about 1B and G.
Okay.
So 2B and G,
Mhm.
you say that we're using alternative methods of compliance for toilet room facilities
Correct.
at the following elementary schools. And you list school 2, school 3, and school 4, and you list a bunch of rooms at each of them.
Right.
Then, what I'm not understanding is then for the resolve, therefore be it resolved that we approve renewal for only school 3.
That's for dual use.
That's for dual use. That's a
The
different
community is renewal in all of those buildings. They've already had the application process, which is what's going on in 1B and G for the schools that have never used it before. 2B and G
No.
is renewal.
Wait, guys, stop.
Hold
2B and G has to do with toilets.
Now,
No,
The
I-
first part is the renewal of the toilets. The second part is the renewal of the dual use space for that specific classroom at school 3.
I think it should be two.
It should be probably the two resolutions.
Yeah,
Guys,
that's where the
okay,
confusion is.
all right.
Okay, I have one more question, and I knew I had another question to ask. Would Ms. Baker or Dr. Kravitz mind explaining to me, and to everyone how it's going to work for the 7th and 8th graders that are taking the classes together? Because that was a major concern for many parents, and, so to my understanding, the 7th and 8th graders, are going to be taking the unified arts classes together, and this is something that the teachers came up with, and I support the teachers, our educators, I have faith in them. I just would like to understand exactly, how it will work. I read an email that was sent out, that said there are 2 parts to it, and I'm just wondering how that will work. How do you choose? If you have an 8th grader, how will that work? If you have a 7th grader, how will that work? These are students who are coming from a very, this is an incubated building. And they're going into, there's a big difference between 7th and 8th graders. And this isn't an after-school club that students that are like-minded and have the same desires to play music or do different things are choosing to do. This is a class that you're graded on, that is an academic class. So I just need a little clarification on exactly how it's going to work.
So I'll just speak to the overall and.
Yes, now.
Sure.
I'm just wondering if parents would have, just wondering if parents would have the ability to opt out.
So one of the things about the
I still couldn't hear.
I'm sorry.
And it's one of the parents could opt out of having their 7th and 8th graders.
So the reason why we, the conversation was brought to us by the Lynn level administration was that, again, back to the scheduling concept of latitude. So, we've talked about how we increase the math program. So you have students now at the middle school who can take an algebra track, a geometry track, and then there's basically math 8, right? Those are your 3 tracks. So as we are trying to increase that and offer more of that, again, students in a cohort makes it very difficult because if the student, for example, today we had a student contact us and say, I'm in the English honors and geometry honors, but because Singleton's one class, they are offered only in the morning because all 7th grade, all 8th graders are only taught those 3 classes in the morning and then their unified arts in the afternoon. So the request from the student was, hey, can I get a break? Can I take maybe English in the morning and geometry in the afternoon and then figure out what other unified arts I can take in between? Doing it this way by mixing them gives them that opportunity. As far as it frees up the ability to have more classes. And in some cases, you actually have 12-year-olds who are in 7th or 8th grade, right? So you have the younger ones. So the age-wise, they're still, some of them aren't the same age. As far So that's one component. So it gives some latitude. Number 2, it also we have staff that just don't have the ability to teach more and more classes. We pay for overages, so we can actually mix some of the classes together. The curriculum was discussed with the teachers. They enjoyed it. Actually gave them opportunities to do multiple things. So what was the one, the science one? Hydroponics was an opportunity now to say, we can do it over a 2-year period and see how things work and develop it in the science classes. So, STEAM classes.
Yeah, so what if you are in 8th grade and you've already had classes, then you'll only get one section of that class? Or where do you start? So, because you have students who are in 8th grade that have already had these classes, and now you have 7th graders who've never had these classes. So where are you starting at?
So the teachers will have the opportunity to actually increase the content in that uniform. If I'm not mistaken.
The curriculum was rewritten. So it's one curriculum, and the course is going to be taught. There's going to be, instead of, let's just say STEM 7 and STEM 8, it's STEM 1 and STEM 2.
That's a good answer.
Okay, so the curriculum was rewritten to avoid repetition and redundancy. But for example, a concept like hydroponics that was originally, let's say, taught in 8th grade, the teachers got together and said, hey, this worked really well. Let's talk about how we can make it applicable in year 1 and year 2, regardless of the grade level. So the teacher is not teaching 2 different grade level curriculum. It's one curriculum.
Okay.
And it was redesigned for that purpose.
So those students who are in the classes now, for instance, so if you have Johnny in 7th grade and you have Karen in 8th grade, and they're both in the same class this year. So Karen hopefully graduates and goes on to high school, and Johnny's gonna go on to 8th grade. So is Johnny going to travel with all of the students that were in his class so that he's in the same place for next year? So are you gonna have to worry when you schedule next year that all of those classes, that all of those students are together? Because it sounds like it's like the same thing over and over.
So that's a building level, it's almost like they're looping in a way. That's a building level process. So they will know who's in year 1, and then when they go to year 2, they go to year 2.
Because that sounds like it's gonna make the schedules more complicated instead of not, because it's the same as, okay, you're in geometry 1, you're in geometry 2 now, you're in unified arts 1 now you're in unified arts 2. Before, when you were in either a 7th grade or an 8th grade, it was already there. So now it's going to make it kind of hard because you got everybody together mixed in the same classes.
So the looping, with 2 years in a row, you're gonna have, in theory, the same teacher. But you're only talking about the unified arts. So the unified arts, there would be that differentiation. So when you're teaching that class, it's what we actually want to achieve in all of our classes, right? So when you have 20 students come before you, and you say, okay, what levels are you at? What's your knowledge? We can start to bring, you might have an eighth grader who's not performing at that level. And now you can actually differentiate the instruction to a different level. So
Do that without extra teachers and without extra help.
I mean, so without extra teachers, all teachers should be differentiating their instruction in the classroom. So, I mean, the building level administration, the teachers met, they were confident they could do this, were excited about it. It's giving them different opportunities.
Yeah, so all the students will take year one together, and then the students will take year two together. They're just mixed. This just happens to be the first year that we're doing it.
So the ones that are in eighth grade, are they gonna miss something?
No. And the way the standards are written, they're written in grade level bands. So there aren't, for those courses, there aren't different standards for seventh and different standards for eighth. It'll say just by the end of eighth grade, let's just say the standards band is from grade 6 to 8. They'll just say by the end of eighth grade, this is what needs to be covered.
So it sounds like there's not a way to.
Yeah,
Correct.
unfortunately, they can't be knocked out because it's all scheduled and I would suggest if you have specific, any parent out there who has specific concerns, you really contact the teacher. They're the ones who help design it and they, they can answer most of those questions specifically to address those concerns.
I'm sure it will be great, like I said, if the teachers developed it, they came together, it just as, to see it is a surprise, and then to know, STEM could be a challenging, I mean, each subject, every student is different, every student is beautiful, every student is perfect in their own way. Every person can learn one thing easier, some things easier than others. Music, if you've never played an instrument, you don't play instruments in music, you write music. Music is a heavy subject in middle school. It was last year, from what I saw. I don't know, I would love to see how the curriculum has changed, because in the IS school, music was different, and it's wonderful. I love music. I'm not saying anything bad about music. It's fantastic. But I'm saying music could be a hard course for many students. So you're putting, I'd like to see the curriculum. It is what it is, but that is something I am concerned about, the music class. If a student's never played an instrument or doesn't read music, and they're going to put the seventh and eighth graders together, I would think they have to bring it down, because it's a pretty heavy curriculum, or it was last year, so I'm looking forward to seeing the new one. Thanks.
So, just for clarification, for example, if a student is enrolled in 7th and 8th grade STEM 1 this year, and the 7th grader becomes 8th grader next year, does that mean they move to STEM 2? And those 8th graders who are new to the district and they start from STEM 1? Is that how this would work?
I believe that would be the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
For most part, they are still going to be within cohort.
Yes, but the exact classes may not be exactly the same. It just depends on scheduling.
So that would address the concern that the 8th graders are repeating the same.
Yeah, because it's all new curriculum, so they're not repeating anything, because the whole curriculum is new.
Yeah, concepts are similar, but the activities and the objectives were changed so that it wasn't repetitive.
What would you suggest to parents that still have a problem with this?
I would reach out to the teacher and to the principal, and they would show and explain the rationale, and actually demonstrate what was being taught and how it was being taught.
And were there any concerns with the maturity level of the students coming in versus the students that are getting ready to leave the building?
None that were brought to my attention.
So for the best.
Questions? Any other questions? Okay, board members, in front of you, you have the list that I emailed you at least 6 times by now. I was gonna bring it up in business, but those are lists of potential goals. You also have a copy of district and board goals that, the district goals Dr. Kravitz kind of threw out there as thoughts of what we'd like to do. Do you want to explain more?
Sure, so I went back in time and learned a lot. No, I'm just kidding. There were some goals that were presented in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And I started to put them on the board goals and district goals. And I just thought maybe since a lot of those themes are very consistent to what we've been talking about. So I'll read them. You know, successfully negotiate a signed successor agreement. So the Fort Lee Education Association contract is up at the end of this year. So that's a goal that maybe the board should look at. Work collaboratively within the district to develop a comprehensive 5-year strategic plan. That was in 2017 and 18. And to plan and participate in the board retreats and during the board field process. That's not my lane particularly, but it's just a thought. As far as district goals, comprehensively assess district facilities and grounds with the intent of developing a long-range facilities plan to provide the best environment possible for student learning and activities. That goes along with getting a demographic study and determining how will our facilities support the increase in students, as well as what we do need. Address the disproportionality of performance on standardized testing among the district's different demographic groups. That was presented when we showed the data, as well as the disproportionality report that the equity committee discussed. And then leverage district technology and other appropriate resources to increase community engagement and perception of public schools, which is along the same lines of how do we communicate with what's happening in our school district. I know that the PR committee was meeting on that, and I know there was a conversation about how do we get more community engagement. So those 3 goals on both board and district level were, as I said, starting in 2017 and 2018, and maybe the board would like to continue those.
You also have the list, I know some of you have responded to the email that I had shared a while ago, with the 16 or so different categories and topics. Some of you had offered opinions on it, but I was gonna bring that up under new business. I just wanted to let you know that you had this copy, but then what the additional paper was that Dr. Kravitz had added. Before we go to old business and new business, at the end of resolutions, we are gonna go back into executive session for a confidential matter that came to our attention after we had closed the first time. So we'll let, public comment and voting and everything happen, and then we'll go back in to executive session. What?
At the end of the meeting.
Yeah, before old and new business, that way if we wanna stay and discuss these goals, we can have conversation after new business. Or we can do it at the next meeting. Whatever one decides by that point.
Thank you for putting this together. It's very helpful.
Okay, we do have one walk-in resolution that I'm gonna read now before we open to public comments. It would be 6B and reads, therefore be it resolved that the Fort Lee Board of Education hereby permits the following non-resident student to continue enrollment at the Fort Lee Public Schools for the 24-25 school year at the advertised prorated tuition rate. And that is student ID number 847-552-6385. Student at the middle school in grade 8, and that is item 6B. Okay, may I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
Second.
Motion, Mr. Knight, second, Ms. Copain, all in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, we will hear first from members of the public physically located here in the cafeteria tonight. Then we will take questions and comments from those participating remotely. Participants are limited to 3 minutes in which to make their statement. For remote public participants, please select the raise hand button. And Mr. Ruggiero will recognize each community member in the order of the raised hands by lowering your hand. You may unmute your microphone and state your name and home address for the record and begin your comments. Everyone, please limit your comment to 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record before you begin your comments. Is there anyone here in person who would like to speak? Go ahead. Step up, please.
Step up.
Go up.
Hello everyone. My name is Sergey Chukhin, father and his mother of one of the students of Держанка County Academy, it's Daria Bondarenko, who lives in building 2 Horizon Road, 43. And my question is about the transportation from 43 to
Can you speak the microphone a little bit more?
from Fort Lee to Hackensack in Belgium. Previous 2 years, when our daughter was attended to the school, we had bus stop on Horizon Road and Palisade Pavilion. And we negotiated first time with board or business office, I don't know, and this was included because the shortest time for the any stops which is in right now schedule is basically 25 minutes of walk, crossing very dangerous street. For example, our Palisade Avenue on Horizon Road, we have every month, for sure, some accident where pedestrian was involved. And walking 25 minutes in the morning, basically when it's snow, crossing guards, it will end up, it's a little bit dangerous. Drop on the bus stop every morning by car on this which is speed schedule is quite difficult for us because my wife has some disability and not always can drive, and I sometimes walk at this time on walk. So I asked board and I asked business office include this stop like it was previous 2 years and more. I must not just for this year, also for next year. And last year, not just our daughter used this stop, it was few other kids coming from this stop. So, starting from, I believe, August 22nd, as soon as we got email from Mr. Dolphin, I believe that I pronounce. I have just, because I sent a few people, I got the response just from Ms. Kolbas. Thank you very much for your response. And after her request, Mr. Gandolfo writes something which is not acceptable. No any answers. Moreover, I investigate the questions and I notice bus stop was not included in request or in forbid even.
Okay, your time has expired. Thank you for your question.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what your question is.
My question is it possible to include bus stop Horizon Road, Palisade Avenue? It will not change the route of the bus because today I sent to Mr. Kravitz.
Well, what happens with the bus stop, so your daughter is, she goes to Bergen Academy, if I'm correct?
Yes.
So what happens is we send the whole roster, there are 35 students on that bus. And what they do is the bus company will look at all the children and they come up with different stops. So everybody has to walk a certain distance to get to one of the bus stops. And I know we did receive your letter and we actually did reach out to the bus company to see if additional stop could be accommodated. But what they do is they look at the total roster of children. Because if, we have to be fair to everybody on the bus route, we don't do door-to-door service.
So it will not be included like
I don't know if it will be, I know we did send an email to the bus company to see if they accommodated, and they said they will not even get back to us until September.
Why is no one from business office not responding to our email?
I thought that James did respond to you, that he said that the company, that you actually responded back that you wanted the name and the phone number of the company, because you wanted to call them directly.
I called them, they told us it's based on the request what they getting from the business office of Fort Lee.
Sir, if you could communicate after September 9th, as she stated, the bus company said that they will not have an answer for her until September 9th. So if you could communicate with Ms. Nasri, then, that's the best answer she can give you right now. Fort Lee doesn't control those buses, it's a private company. So once they respond to her, she will have a better answer for you.
But it looks like discrepancy. When I called the bus stop, bus company, they told me that they need to talk to school.
Yes, and she put the request in for you, and they told her that she will not have an answer until at least September 9th. So after September 9th would be a better time to communicate with her when she has more of an answer from the
I
bus.
should initiate this communication when.
Sir, we are not having a back and forth, your question has been answered. We have no other answers for you at the moment.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak? Yes.
Hello, my name is FLBOE Meeting. I live the same address with my husband, and he will be translating because my English.
Can you use the mic and speak a little slower? It's hard to hear you.
Okay, I have a
Maybe
question.
step it up a little.
I don't understand why previously 2 years we have this stop and why we don't have this stop this year.
What happened?
My son went to the academy years ago, and every year the bus stop was different, and it was a different time. It was on John Street and North Avenue, then one time it was on Main Street. It's something that I believe Worley doesn't control, it's the bus
No,
company.
the same, the schedule, the same third year, the same schedule. Because previously 2 years, board business facility include this bus stop.
No,
And now we don't, no, I
Like I said,
don't understand why.
it's by the amount of children, I believe, that, they can't make 100 stops, and it's an early day, I know that. My son would be there, I think, 6:30 in the morning, or before 7. And like I said, the first year it was like a half a block away, second year it was 3 blocks away. I'm assuming because more students came from other areas, so they combine it, or they look at a map, or
If I may, thank you. So, sir and ma'am, your question is valid. The board has heard your question. As Ms. Mesri, who is the school business administrator, mentioned, she received your letter or email that was sent. The email was sent to the bus company. The school district issued what's called a bid to bus companies. The number of students, the addresses, and they respond to that bid, and they propose where the stops will be. So the school district isn't directly in control of where the stops will be, because you've heard that they may vary from year to year. But again, your question, your concern was related to the bus company, and Ms. Mesri indicated that the bus company stated that they will get back to her by September 9th, which is next week. So I would suggest that perhaps you can communicate with Ms. Mesri on the 10th. She can give you her information tonight, she can step aside, and you can give her yours. And on the 10th, you can circle back and see if you have an answer that's satisfactory. If it's not, you are more than welcome to come to the next board meeting and to reiterate your concerns and or see this solution. Okay? But just now, public comment is really a back and forth. That's why we're just trying to give you the information so we can move on, but we really can't solve the issue.
Just conclusion. We need to wait 9 September.
That's the response we got.
And you sent us email.
When I hear back from them, yes, because
We
we
sent us email, yes. September 10th,
Problem
yes.
is for 10 days, no one responds to.
Yes, since no one respond us, why?
And
Again, I heard that there was a response given to you. Perhaps you can take that up with Ms. Mesri tomorrow. But this evening, I heard that there was a request submitted from you. There was a response acknowledging receipt, and there was an email to the bus company. Again, I don't know what happened in the last 10 days. There's a lot that happens getting schools ready. And so I can't acknowledge it. I'm not going to apologize for something I'm not aware of. But we understand your concern. We've heard the concern. And as you indicated, or you heard Ms. Mesri state, you'll get a response from her by the 10th. after she hears back from the bus. It could be something.
If this problem doesn't resolve, what next our step?
Let's hope it gets resolved. Let's just wait and see what the answer is, okay?
Okay.
Can I just ask and get clarification on the bidding process? So this is something that we did, like, when, last June or something?
No, what happens is we had, the bus company, we were able to renew the contract with them, but what happens every single year, you get a different crop of students, because your seniors have gone out and then get new students in. There's 35 students on the bus.
Going to Bergen Academy?
Yes, there's just 35 students going to Bergen Academy and going to Hackensack. Then there are kids that go to the Old Japan, there's Teterboro, there's all different stuff. We're talking about the one for Bergen Academy. There's 35 students on the bus. All of the students have to walk to a bus stop. His child is not unique in that situation. I have several students that have to walk 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes in order to get to a bus stop. What they try to do is they look at all the students who are on, the route, or going to the school rather. They try to look at all the students who are going to the school and come up with the stops that I guess the most centralized for the students. And there's 5 different stops, so it's not like his daughter doesn't have a stop that she can go to. She can get to school on, I don't know when you start school, I don't know if it's Wednesday or Thursday they started. I mean, she can get to school because there's 5 different stops that she can go to. What we're waiting to see is if we can add the additional stop for you. And we put the email to the company and they said they'll get back to us by September 9th.
But previously 2 years we had, and they stopped, and now we don't have.
But the group of people is different, that's why. So every year when a new group of people, new group of students come, they find the location of all the students. But that's the intent of sending it out to bid every year or through the bus.
Renewing the contract.
So that when they determine where everyone is, that's what they do.
No, we just,
So again, excuse me, miss, respectfully, because it wouldn't be fair that everyone else who is signed up to speak. The way the public comment portion of the meeting works is each person takes 3 minutes to ask their questions or make their comments. Then the board responds. But it really isn't a back, it's meant to be a back and forth.
Thank you.
And we long
Thanks
since
for your
passed the 3 minutes, but we heard your comment. And what I would even suggest perhaps, Ms. Mesri, is that you can't give the names of the other students, but perhaps they can give you a route map or what have you. They can pinpoint what the spots are, that might help further explain.
I actually went by there.
But if we could go by that, I don't know if it's safe, there can be public safety
What
issues.
happened, no, what
There can be
happened is-
traffic issues, a lot of reasons to go into where buses stop.
What gets emailed to the parents are the 5 stops, so that there's 5 different stops that they can bring their child to go. We don't give them the other students' addresses. because
Correct.
I wouldn't give that out. So what they, goes to each parent and said there's 5 different stops.
So they've already gotten it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great.
And with the time, so it's the 5 different stops. So at 6:27, it's Main Street in Anderson. At 6:28, it's Anderson and Stillwell. At 6:34, it's Columbia Ave and Palisade Ave. At 6:40, it's West Street in Linwood. And then at 6:43, it's Washington Ave and Lemoyne Avenue.
How many students get on each spot?
There's 35 students.
How many at each spot?
Each stop, I don't know, because each student,
So,
depending.
so perhaps we can find out, because there might be some rationale that there's 5 at this stop, 5 at that stop, they equal 35. We can't make an extra stop for 1. That might be the answer, so.
It could be, if I can find, I should have put that on, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I see what I don't see? Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Lester Taylor, I'm the attorney for the FLBOE Board of Education.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Question.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the public wish to speak?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for what you did. Appreciate it. Kyle Sanford, 809 Harbor Place, Fulton, New Jersey. I was here last meeting. I just wanted to find out if there's any progress in just what Travis said about the busing for the kids after school programs, like for softball and whatever. I guess it was also soccer. We said. So I just wanted to find out if there's any progress.
But at this point, I have to check with James, because I know they were just trying to get the regular busing to and from school first, so we still have to work on it.
Yeah, because the issue was, after school, you guys, people were changing the field, where the field's supposed to be, because used to practice right here, like I get, or whatever. And, last thing that changes, really school figures out.
Right, we'll get back to you by the next meeting, we'll have the answer, because I know James was most concerned with just trying to get all the routes organized. the intermediate and the middle school, and then there's the regular after-school athletics for the high school sports, and then.
So I will get an answer next meeting, that's what I'm asking.
Excuse me?
I will get an answer next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to speak?
Hello? Hi. Michelle Perez, 555 North Avenue. I'm really excited you're having this conversation about long-term goals, short-term goals, all good to your homework. I love it. Lester, am I allowed to ask you a question about something regarding the board, or does it just need to get addressed generally?
But, I mean, you can address your question to the board chairwoman.
Okay.
And then whether I can answer or not with board member administration, will I can get a question first.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna regret this, but, if a current board member volunteers to moderate a debate between Board of Ed candidates, is that ethical? Is that something that would be advised, for a sitting board member, or is that something that should be advised outside of the scope of Board of Ed members' responsibilities?
Is that your only question?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're.
I'm good.
we're
After this,
agreement.
we'll
That's
sit
your
down.
question. Okay, I can't speculate and I can't give legal advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Typical lawyer speak.
Is there anyone remaining in the audience who wishes to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Taylor Gibbons, 8A Hillcrest Avenue in Fort Lee. I am reaching out, I wanted to stop by to follow up about the busing schedule. So it seems to be the topic of conversation tonight, so I figured I would add on to it. I'm concerned because of my two daughters that need to get to school. We seem to have had very minimal communication in regard to the busing. Also, the change in distance. So for what's allowed to be, I guess, a bus or kids that are eligible for busing to go to school. And then if you're outside of the parameters or the distance for the school to be able to get free busing for the kids, now we have to pay. But even in regards to paying, there's no spots to get our kids onto the bus. On top of that, we have no communication. So between emails and phone calls, we're not getting any communication back. School starts Thursday. I'm continuously out for my job, so my wife has to try to figure out how to get all of our 5 kids to and from school. And this is just not something that is very helpful last minute before school starts tomorrow, the next day. So it would be nice if we could have some type of communication, some type of information, some way to be able to get some type of busing set up so that the kids do not have to cross the bridge traffic. It's not safe, it's not doable, they're not in the walkable distance where I think that they would be able to safely walk to and from school. And just the bridge traffic alone, there's continual accidents. I don't think you want your kids going across that, I don't want my kids going across that. It's not fair for anybody else, so if we could have something in place, that would be my only question and concern.
Are your children in the middle school? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
So what happened is, once, we wound up doing, I guess, the mileage, we found out that the mileage that was calculated here in the past was incorrect. So the district actually purchased a new software called TransFinder to actually calculate the mileage to or from home to the school. It's not necessarily the route that you would take, it's the shortest distance and it's walking distance, it's not driving distance. So we got this software in March, we had to learn how to use it all. Then it took a while because we had to download all the student information into the system and then it had to get geocoded. So it did take time and we do apologize for the delays. I know it was short notice, but we did send emails out to the parents last week on August 28th. We first, the subscription busings, and it's like, almost like a lottery because we only have so many seats on the bus. And I think it's always been like that, even in the past when they even had busing, we were never able to bus everyone in the intermediate and middle school. That just was not the case. What we did is the board, because it was so late, to send the emails first to the students that lived 1.7 miles or further from the school, to give them the first opportunity to get their paperwork in, and then we opened it up to everybody else. I believe the emails went out the next morning to everybody else in the middle school and the IS school. I know James has been working to get schedule set up, and I believe he said I'll double check with James tomorrow, but I believe he notified those students who are on the bus that if they got on, and he also was making calls, and I know that we also were starting like a wait list. Unfortunately, we just can't transport that many students.
Definitely understand. I would just probably give a suggestion for the future.
Yeah.
That, you know, when it takes that amount of time, your guys' floor planning creates urgency on our parts.
I
And
understand.
it's definitely not fair to all of us to now have to subject our children and our scheduling because you guys have poor planning. There's a lot of kids, a lot of data, a lot of info. I understand all that takes time, but now I'm subjected and my kids are subjected because of y'all's poor planning.
Well, it wasn't the boards, don't blame them.
So whoever it was, I'm so,
Responsibility
if
and
the
then.
board's not doing it, or whoever it was,
Right, we were
that,
just.
that reflects on us.
I understand, but there's also state law, and once we found out that the students did not qualify for free transportation, we couldn't just stick our head in the sand and act like it didn't exist, we had to make sure that we got it right. That's the law,
Absolutely.
and I do apologize
Further
for the
communication would be-
right, and I do apologize for that, we do know it was short notice.
You know, good question, you mentioned that it's like a lottery system, is it a lottery system or first come, first served?
We did first come, first served, we started with the 1.7, give it to them first, and then the next morning we opened it up to everybody else, and we do have a wait list at this point. But I think even in the past, from what I understand, they weren't ever even able to transport that many students before, I think it was only about 150. So there's about 1,200 kids between the IS and the middle school, but they were never able to accommodate everybody.
How long is the wait list?
Right now, James told me there's like 27 kids on there, and we are looking to see if maybe there's something we can do, like with tiering, busing, maybe if we can accommodate, but at this point in time, we just not 100% sure what we could do.
I think
Would like-
we need to make communication, a better communication to go for
I
this
agree.
year, because it's something I've heard from a lot of parents that they're upset about this, so, yeah.
I agree completely, and I take full responsibility for that, like I said, I know it was just shortcoming, we didn't get the software until March, then we had to learn how to use it, too, so there was like that little bit of learning curve in there. But I do apologize.
I'm even talking about just in general with, when the people are calling and trying to speak about busing, not getting a call back, or I heard from many parents that they were getting full voicemail. That was something I heard. So just if we could tighten that up, I think it'd make it a lot easier for everybody.
You know, I got the same feedback. I couldn't leave a voicemail myself as well. And I think that with the school starting in 2 days, I can only imagine that the number of calls and requests would only increase over the next week or so. How can we support, or how can we have staff that allocate them so that they can support transportation communications just over the next week or so? Is that possible?
What happened was, James didn't even have access to, the transportation at FLBOE, and he didn't even have access to that email. So then once we found that out, we also opened that email up again, that we got in touch with the IT so that James could have access to it. Actually, Lolita and James have been going through that because we have been getting inundated with emails. And it's not just for the IS either. I know IS is a big part, but there's a whole bunch of other students that we transport too. So we've been trying to address all the transportation needs because we have a large amount of special needs students that also get transported out. So we had to make sure all that route information went out. So there's been a lot that had to get out lately, but we weren't aware that James didn't have access to the transportation at FLBOE. So we also addressed that. And now it's responding to those.
Thank you for your time. If there is like some type of lottery or something that can be an additional purchase for us, that would be great as well. We can look into that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else remaining in person that wishes to speak? Okay, Mr. Ruggiero, you're up.
Goslin, you've been promoted to panelist. Please unmute your microphone and feel free to share your video. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Goslin?
Hi, thank you, Jason. Hi, everybody. Keith Goslin, 2185 Lemoyne Avenue. Just hopping on tonight to talk about the CPAG meet and greet, just to kind of congratulate the parents of Fort Lee that showed up. There was a lot of people there and it was wonderful to see. And thank you again, Dr. Kravitz. It was great to meet Monica, the new director. And I just wanted to congratulate again all the parents, Andrew Goodman and Cynthia Hanna and myself as well, with the work we did in putting it together, and just to see people interacting with the child study team and asking questions about transportation with the transportation team was wonderful. And that's it. So I just wanted to say thank you again, and look forward to, we're going to schedule our first meeting soon, and we'll be in contact with the district to let them know, but it's likely going to be the 18th. We're just waiting on a few more details, and that's it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Asso, you've been promoted to panelist. Please unmute your microphone and feel free to share your video. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, everyone. Mike Asso, 230 Warren Avenue, Fort Lee, New Jersey. I was listening earlier in regards to the long-term facility plan. Can anybody tell me how much money we have currently in the capital reserve account? Ballpark.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Alpha?
Well, if we're going to determine a long-term facility plan, first of all, majority of a lot of the mechanicals, the roofs, and a lot of the structural stuff has already been completed within the last 10 years. So we should have already been having an ongoing long-term facility plan already. We have brand new buildings being put up. We have all the mechanicals put in. We have all these capital improvements being done. Shouldn't we have already a schedule of when all this stuff happens, that if the AC units or the mechanicals are 10 years in existence, we already should have that in place, correct?
So, is there any more? I mean, I'll answer all of them at one time and explain kind of where we're at, if you don't mind.
Well, the thing is, we should already been having, since all the capital improvements that have been taking place over the last 10 years, we should already have a schedule of what needs to be replaced in a certain amount of time, right? Now, the question comes down to, next thing, that's the last 2 questions. The other thing regarding the first modern and the Hudson Lights are full ratables. The second modern is the one with the pilot. And if I remember, that was the one that we had to get with how many students were in that one. Not all 3, because the first, the modern and the Hudson Lights are full ratable on that. And that should be getting part of our budget as well. So we just have to worry about how many students are in modern too. So going back to my last question, my first question is, do we have enough money in the capital reserve account right now? How much is in the money in the capital reserve account? Ballpark.
So approximately $8 million in the capital reserves.
How much?
8 million.
You have 8 million. How much do we put in? How much do we put in every year into this capital reserve account? If our budget is almost $100 million a year, should we at least be putting $3 million a year into the capital reserve?
Is that your final question?
Yes.
Just 1 second. Yep. Right. So there's approximately $8 million in the capital reserves. As regard what have we been working on, we have a modified long-range facilities plan, which is listing of all the projects. So there has been a lot of renovation. In many cases, when we plan out things, that's why I mentioned the strategic plan, and including that, a strategic plan inclusive of long-range facilities plan. So in some of the buildings, for example, the heating and ventilation systems, they're 50 to 75 years old. In order to acquire air conditioning in those buildings, the most affordable route was to put an air conditioning unit inside a 75-year-old unit. So if you look at school number 3, you have 70-year-old units that are now have about 7-year-old air conditioner inside of them. So It's like buying a 1965 car and putting in a brand new engine. It may look good.
I'm well aware of it, Mr. Kravitz. And the question is, in school number 3, we still have all those 75-year-old mechanicals, correct?
So,
Miss Mickey, we're not going back and forth. He's trying to answer your questions. Let him speak,
Okay,
please.
okay.
so we have those mechanicals that work, but we have units that were inside of them. So in many cases, when we're looking through, again, a plan, a long-term plan of how do we make sure and ensure that every building is up to code and up to what we need and determining the square footage and everything about it, that was never done from what I have been told by the architects for a long period of time. We have a list, but a traditional long-term facilities plan includes the lifetime of everything. So even when we look at this building and we talk about the drainage issues that are existing in this building that is brand new, there was never in the plans that were submitted and built an actual drainage of every air conditioning unit in this building. So there's a concern, number one, that the chiller is not working because it was never commissioned properly. And number two, with that architectural plan that was presented many years ago, or actually about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when this building was built, the plan was, and it's in testimony, it's in all the documentation, there was a metal pan placed in every classroom that had air conditioning. There was never a drain attached to it. So when we wanted to know about the leakage that exists in this building, it's because that metal pan, unless it's removed manually, daily, or every week, then it will flood. So the right way to do it is to create a drainage system in this building in every classroom, so when that metal pan overflows, it gets drained, it's outside. That was never done, but that's not in a long-range facility plan that currently exists, because it was never done with that in mind. So as we go through everything to figure out, well, if that's approximately $2 to $3 million renovation in just this building alone, that's the concern. So that's why you have a long-range facility plan. As far as the cost and how much we put every year, it's really dependent on how much is left over. So if we have an increase in special education students, an increase in busing that we talk about, increased need for special education teachers, that might reduce the extra money that we would normally have and be able to put into our capital reserve. So that affects that every year. So all of these things are coming to a head, and the best way to do it is actually to develop a plan, look at where we are, what do we need, look at the demographics and everything else. As far as the modern, when we ran the report based on the addresses, there were 75 students currently in our Genesis student information system that reported the address of the modern buildings.
Well, that was the 75 was always pretty much the number that the town always gave us. It was going to be about 75 students. When I remember when this thing was being built.
Okay, thank you for your comments and questions.
All right, take care.
Yes.
Caroline Carino, you've been promoted to panelist. Please unmute your microphone and feel free to share your video. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Caroline Carino. I live at 3061 Edwin Avenue. Quick comment slash question, I guess. My son, who's going to actually start the pre-K over at the 308 Hunter building, the new building. So kind of just like on the lines of communication. I didn't find out because the pre-K was before I know school 2 and school 3, and I have a daughter that goes at school 3 right now. So I didn't find out about the fact that my son was going to go to the Tom Hunter building until his teacher emailed us like a welcome email 2 to 3 weeks ago. It wasn't on the application. So if that could just be maybe for the future, like communicated better from the communicated better. Also, but I am excited for the buildings. I heard it's new and nice. Also, he's only 4, so it's a pre-K 4 program. So I was a little bit disheartened that there's no like orientation for the preschoolers. I don't know if it was because this is a new building. That's kind of just what I had to say tonight. So thank you.
There are no more raised hands.
So thank you for your comment, and I appreciate it. We don't do a pre-K orientation. That's something I think we should start to do. And I appreciate that the conversation to take place and try to build into that. Absolutely.
Nope, there are no more raised hands.
Okay, may I have a motion to move forward Motion Rubino, second Morel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, moving on to resolutions. May I have a motion to approve items 1B through walk-in resolution 6B?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Morel, second Colback, roll call please.
Mrs. Byers Kane,
Yes.
Ms. Colback,
Yes.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mrs. Coateng,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Mrs. Richter.
Yes, and I abstain from my name on 5B.
You could put me, I'll abstain from my name too.
Can I add my name on five? Can I add my name on 5B?
The 5B are
Is everybody abstaining? No.
just on their own name.
Their
on
own
5B. Yes,
All right, I'm just gonna.
and Mr. Rubino wants to be added to 5B.
Come on. Okay.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve items 1B and G through 3B and G?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion, was that Ms. Coateng? Motion Coateng, second Rubino, roll call please.
Mrs. Byers Kane,
Yes.
Ms. Colback,
Yes.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mrs. Coateng,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Mrs. Richter.
Yes. May I have a motion to approve items 1F through 8F?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Curry, second Morel, roll call please.
Mrs. Byers Kane,
Yes.
Ms. Colback,
Yes.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mrs. Coateng,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Mrs. Richter.
Yes, and thank you to our generous donors on 3F. May I have a motion to approve items 1P through 21P?
Motion. Second.
Motion Morel, second Coateng, roll call please.
Mrs. Byers Kane,
Yes.
Ms. Colback,
Yes.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mrs. Coateng,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Mrs. Richter.
Yes. May I have a motion to approve item 1 POL?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Colback, second Morel, roll call please.
Mrs. Byers Kane,
Yes.
Ms. Colback,
Yes.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Mrs. Coateng,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Mrs. Richter.
Yes. Okay, before we move on to old and new business, we are convening back into executive session to discuss confidential matters. We will reconvene in approximately 15 minutes, and action will be taken. May I have a motion to go back into executive session?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Morel, second Lopez, any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Outright dangerous. So I hope that we can work with our bus company to accommodate that. And I also believe that some students find the 6:30 start of the route of the family challenging. So Dina and I spoke earlier to see after September 9th, if the bus company would consider delaying that to 6:45, even 15 minutes. So thank you very much.
Old business, anyone else? New business?
I just want to say something.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to thank Dr. Kravitz and thank CPAG for the meet and greet. I thought it was really incredible, and I thought it was worth discussing just a little bit more. It was incredible. All the staff was there. Everyone was available to answer any questions that anyone might have had. And it was just really great. It was a great opportunity for also for some special needs families to sort of mingle and chat amongst each other too, and sort of build up that community. So I just think it was just absolutely fantastic. And I just wanted to give accolades to Keith and to Andrew and to Dr. Kravitz for making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, as discussed at our next meeting, we will, during board comments, discuss goals. So everyone, please be prepared for that at our next meeting, in a few weeks. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion Morales, second Rubino, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, have a good night.
So.